Hey everyone, so making this video, it's aimed towards tone, just tone of the guitar, tone wood, everything like that. And I'm gonna get into one of the biggest deals that are kind of overlooked nowadays when it comes to the tone or tone wood or anything that has to do with electric guitar or acoustic, whatever. But so tone woods obviously make a difference. I mean, there is a science to it that is just very simple. It really is simple if you just stop to think about it and get away from conspiracy theories that say, oh, it's just a manufacturing ploy. You don't think if it didn't matter that they would use plastics or anything like that and just mark up the fucking prices on that? That doesn't make a difference. There is no conspiracy. There is nothing. It takes a lot to craft something out of wood like something like this. And there is a resonant factor to certain kinds of woods. You know, all the different tone woods, mahogany and maple and alder and ash, and well, the list goes on forever, but this is an alder body. And one of the problems with today's guitars, and this is one of the reasons that I think maybe people misconstrue that, no, tone wood doesn't affect the guitar at all because, you know, this doesn't sound different than this and that. Because most guitars nowadays are covered in polyurethane. Okay, I was a paint expert. I worked at Sherwin-Williams, Columbia Paint, Rada Paint, all these different paint companies, and was trained in all this stuff. And so I had to deal with these coatings all the time. When I'm telling you about polyurethane, okay? Polyurethane is a coating that was made, basically it's a hard binding substance. When it dries, it doesn't really shrink too much, like as opposed to nitrocellulose. When you spray it on, it goes on a certain mil thickness, and you know, whatever mils it goes on. There's a wet mills and then there's dry mills, and typically when a paint is drying, it's going to shrink in mils because it's drying, and all the whatever base it is, be it water base or chemical base or, you know, coconut base, coconut oil based, like nitrocellulose is, that is going to evaporate out of it and leave it with the remaining substance, which becomes hard. Now, polyurethane hardens, and it doesn't shrink in mil thickness very much at all. It goes on thick and it dries thick. And what it does is it basically encapsulates this guitar wood that would normally have a tone in this super dense, hard substance that doesn't really let the wood do what it's supposed to do, like expand and contract and vibrate and resonate. Because wood does resonate. It's not an argument. Knock on a piece of wood, you'll hear the tone. It's what it is. So when you get something like this on it, where there's no tone to it, it's just dense. And this is polyurethane, and it's super thick polyurethane, and it's just fucking gross. Also has some sort of primer underneath it that's like this kind of spongy, kind of soft, turns into powder. It's all over in the guitar. I don't know if you can really see, but what that's doing is basically where, you know, you have your bridge and your strings pulling throughout to the tuning pegs over top the nut, and you've got this tension within the neck and the body, and you hit the strings and the vibrations go throughout the strings, resonate through the body, down the neck, up, back and forth, in a circle, basically. Just it's all reciprocated. It just basically does, it goes back and forth until you stop it. The wood density, the size of the body, the thickness, everything, it's all it's gonna contribute to the way those vibrations go through the guitar, and you know, and keep the vibration going throughout the strings and the neck and everything, which will affect your tone and your sustain. Okay, this is unarguable. You can't argue it. You just can't. I mean, if you do, you're stupid. Basically, because you just look it up. It's really easy science. So you go through all this and you make this nice body, and then it's like, okay, it's good tone wood, it's all this and that, and this is where I think people get misconstrued with tone wood makes no difference. Yeah, when you coat it in polyurethane, it doesn't, because basically you get this nice tone wood, and then you encapsulate it in this substance that does not let the wood do what it needs to do to be resonant and be, you know, one solid piece of instrument. That's the one good thing about nitrocellulose, and this is why people are wanting to start to go back to that, is because those original guitars always had that thing to them. They always had this sound, and it was like, there's just something extra. You can hear it. The overtones, it's just these light harmonic frequencies that just sing. People with a good ear can hear that kind of thing. People that don't are basically the ones that say that tone wood doesn't matter and that solid state amps are better than tube amps. Those are the people with no ear for, you know, tone or music. So nitrocellulose, basically, it goes on, and when it dries to a very thin layer of coating, okay? And because of this, the wood is still able to somewhat breathe. Even though it's coated, because it's so thin, it's not encasing the wood in this unbreakable substance. That's why you get, you know, the stress cracks and all sorts of shit in the finish, which people like. And that's why it gets worn, because it's so thin. And over time, it gets thinner and thinner. That's why the guitars seem to open up and sound better as time goes on when they have nitrocellulose on them. It's like, it sounds even better now than it did then. It's because the wood is starting to open up, and the frequency, all your resonation is going to start opening up with it. And I think that's why guitar manufacturers need to go back to doing something like that. They can try what Paul Reed Smith has done with, he's got like this nitrocellulose that takes the coconut alkyd basically out of the nitrocellulose and puts in an acrylic, which basically, I don't know. I'd have to really feel it and see it and hear it to really judge it, because it's their own formula. I've never really seen it, and I guess it has all the characteristics of a nitrocellulose, but it doesn't weather check and stuff. I personally like that kind of stuff, but to each his own. But the fact of the matter is, guitars nowadays, they need to stop making them and coating them with polyurethane, because it's basically just ruining the integrity of the guitar. Yes, it's a very durable paint, but why would you need that durable of a paint? If you're going to be throwing your guitar around all the time, you're an asshole, and you don't deserve to fucking have a guitar in the first place. That's basically it. That's what I say to those people that, oh, I broke my headstock off my Gibson. It's like, I don't see any circumstance where I would ever end up breaking my headstock off of a Gibson or something, or any of my guitars for that matter. Like, Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, keep your guitars safe. If you had something like a Gibson that costs that much and you don't watch its every move, you don't put it back in the case when you're done, you don't take extra special good care of it, you didn't deserve it in the first place. So, I mean, that's all I have to say about that. But, yeah, I'm going to be knocking off all this poly off of it. And basically, that's one good thing about polyurethane, is to take it off, all really you have to do is just heat the shit up. I mean, you can get the strippers where it kind of works it off, but then you're just like scraping off goop, and it's kind of gross. You could sit there and, because the polyurethane is going to react to superheating, and it's gonna basically separate itself from the wood, because it's wanting to you know, contract and expand really fast, but it you know, it's a really hard substance, so it's not wanting to, so it's just basically going to lift itself, and then you can just basically scrape it off as it goes. But I really think that people need to open their eyes a little bit more and do a little bit more research and think more before they say stupid things like tone wood has nothing to do with the guitar. Wood has everything to do with the guitar, to be honest. The components, the pickups, the nut, the frets, the fretboard, the headstock, the tuning pegs, the bridge, everything, the input jack, everything has to do with the tone of the guitar. Everything. Even polyurethane has to do with it, because it turns it into a really dense, unvoiceless kind of sound. And if more people would figure this out, there'd be less arguing, because it's really nothing to argue about in the first place. To think that guitar manufacturers just use wood and say that it makes a difference with the way the tonality is of the guitar just to sell the guitars is asinine to me. It's really stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Like I said, they could take a plastic guitar, start making those, and say, well, this changes the sound of the wood, and they would hike those prices up too, even if it was 10 cents to fucking get the supplies for it. I mean, there's always going to be a process, and, you know, if anyone who's never, you know, built a guitar or extensively worked on the innards of a guitar, like making, you know, doing something like this, like just basically making their own guitar out of scraps or something, you really have no idea what the hell the guitar entails until you crack into it and really research what you're doing and figure out everything, how one thing correlates to another, because it all makes a difference. So yeah, I will check back in hopefully soonish. I don't know when I'll get all the paint off of this, but when I do, I'll make sure a video. I'll be making like segmented videos or something as the timeline goes on, or I might just be an asshole and just like get it all done and finish it and and then just show you guys, like never show you the in-between steps or anything. But yeah, I just want to clear the air about some of the things that people will bitch about. Yeah, I will agree with the people when they say tone wood has nothing to do with the tone of the guitar when covered in polyurethane. Because that's technically true. Because the polyurethane just basically eliminates whatever the hell the substance underneath it is. The tonality of anything that's underneath it. That's why I think that it is an absolute blaspheme to cover an acoustic guitar in poly. It's horrible to me. Like, that's just you're easily taking away 50% of the tone. Just bam, right there, because the top is not able to vibrate like it's supposed to, and that's where all the tone comes from, is the top vibrating and making that inside of that box of the guitar, the sound waves and the vibrations from the strings are going through, and it makes everything vibrate. It's all vibrations, and all that Poly does is inhibit that. So you guys keep rocking. I will be back soon, hopefully. Peace.